Hey, nobody's out there, right? Good. I'm gonna say weird personal shit. If you don't want to hear that, just don't watch my thing. Anyway, I just woke up. I'm trying to articulate some thoughts kicking around in my head, and basically figure out like what to do. And when I make this video, I'm gonna try to not make it into like a drama. It's fun to like do like a drama, like pretend that like people are watching my life. What's he gonna do? I know that very few people will watch this, and even if somebody's watching, just basically like. Anyway, what do you want to say, Sean? I'm just trying to articulate. I just woke up. I'm really spacey. I've been lying in bed for about a half hour. The sun the sun is just coming up, and I'm really spacey and old, and so there's just some vague thoughts kicking around in my head. It doesn't really matter. There's a fucking like. There's a war in Russia. There's like, there's like real important shit going on. What's going on in my little world doesn't really matter. But it's nice. It's nice to just think that what's going on in my world doesn't matter. And so no one's watching this. Nobody fucking cares. But I should care. I will say that to myself. It's like, I should care. What do you want to say, Sean? Well, I just want to say that I've been listening to Jocko podcast for like a really long time. And Jocko is like a big, strong, like... He's like a naturally strong guy. He's got big forearms. He's got a big lantern jaw. He looks like what a man should be like. Tony Robbins is kind of like a similar guy. Tony Robbins like this big sort of like studly guy, right? Big studly guy who men go like, oh, I wish I was like that guy. That's how I feel. And I am like this like troll looking guy with skinny shoulders and skinny wrists, and my dad's kind of like a skinny nerdy guy. My mom, I come from like like little hobbit people, and I've never been like studly and respectable, but I wish I was like that. And so I'm always insecure. I'm like, my whole life I'm like, can't I be like a top-notch man that men respect and women want to have sex with? Not really. Not the really hot women. Also, like, it's worth noting that my whole life I've kind of like somewhat objectified women. I always jerk off to Playboy models. In my whole life I've always jerked off to Playboy models. And so I'm scared of women. What am I trying to say? Just I'm kind of fucked up. I'm just kind of a, what do I want to say? I'm kind of a boring I'm boring. Everybody was always kind of like, you're boring, like wah wah, you're boring, you're not cool, not studly, you're like a cowardly person. And so my whole life I'm like, I gotta be braver and I gotta get more attractive because I want to fuck a hot chick. My whole life is kind of stupid. Anyway, get to the point, Chum. Basically, I was listening to Jocko podcast yesterday, and I was kind of wondering, like, are these guys like the devil? Like, what am I trying to say? First of all, life is so fucking confusing right now, because I basically this isn't gonna make sense to anybody else, but I basically realized that like life doesn't really fit into little stories. Like I can phrase some story, and I can say some story right now, like it's this, like is this good, is this bad, like is this the right way to do life? And I'm at a point in my life now where I basically realized that like life is just really imperfect and it doesn't fit into neat little categories. Like I could phrase some sort of new story right now, like those guys are the devil. They're the devil metaphorically because you're like feeling inferior, and that's your whole problem, Sean. Your whole problem is that you've looked up to these big men who seem so perfect, and if you just accepted yourself and your nerd status, that's the thing to do. Once I accepted myself and I rejected those nerds and just said like I'm good just the way I am, then my whole life changed. Then I fixed my life, and then everything was perfect. I've always like looked for some sort of like story, like I don't know how to explain it. Like I think of life sometimes as like this video game where like if you just make the right decisions, then perfect life, then perfect, like then it was all like a movie perfect. And I've just sort of realized that like, I don't know, what am I trying to say? I just know now at this point that life doesn't fit into neat little stories like that. And so I know that right now, like, I can say some sort of story. Whatever I say, it's just some fucking story. It's just kind of like, what am I trying to say? Well, I guess I can describe facts. What can I say? I guess I am just kind of basically, I'm kind of curious right now as to like whether jujitsu is good or whether jujitsu is bad. Like, basically, like, here, I'll try to explain the story. And really, like, I'm not sure there's like a perfect answer, but anyway, get to the point. What's really bubbling on my mind? Long story short, there's a guy from my jujitsu class who's basically, I quit jujitsu, and I've quit for like 3 weeks, and I felt really terrible quitting jujitsu because I feel get the point. Basically, like, this guy from jujitsu class kind of messaged me back, and he said like, hey, like, how come you haven't been at jujitsu? And I thought, like, nobody fucking likes me at the jujitsu class. And this guy, get the point. He's kind of he's an older guy who used to be a professor at he used to be an English teacher at get the point. He used to be an English teacher at Cal State Hayward. I don't want to talk too much about this because he might watch this. I think it's doubtful he watches this. But, like, get the point. I'm going to just articulate my thoughts. This guy, he goes to this class, but when he goes to this class, there's this big teacher at the class who's this big, like, strong guy who used to be like a football player, and the strong football player guy, he continually just insults this guy really viciously. Like, this guy who messaged me back, he's like this English teacher, and the big, like, football player with tattoos, he says, like, really nasty things like, you're too fucking ugly, old man, and, like, what are you gonna, like, you're probably just here for pretty women and stuff. And he kind of, like, says really humiliating things to this guy in public that just seem like, that's not right. Like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, it's and I wonder, like, why does this older guy, like, take that? Like, why does he keep going to this building? What's my point? Basically, I always wonder, like, are these guys basically just bullies? Like, I wonder, like, these guys who listen to Jocko and they go like, oh, like, the big man who's the guy that women are attracted to, I want to be like that. I always wonder, like, is that a fucking mistake? Like, should those guys just basically like, hey, fuck you, I'm not, like, gonna, like, waste a bunch of time trying to be like this person that I'm just genetically not like. I wonder, basically, like, what am I trying to say? I basically wonder if that's a mistake. I wonder if there's a mistake where, like, nerdy, big nose, skinny, just people who are more who would be more suitable as, like, an intellectual. I wonder if a lot of times me or just other people kind of make a mistake by having an inferiority complex and then thinking that we can, like, become some cool guy and that then women are gonna like us. I think if I was to try to describe my life, like, I'm not gonna be able to explain this correctly. Again, it's not. I'm not sure there's, like, real correct answer, but, like, when I was 32, I made, like, the biggest mistake of my life, really, because, like, there's one thing I'm, like, actually kind of good at. It's head modeling. I've always done this kind of head modeling shit, and so I worked really hard. Like, first of all, I was naturally good at that shit from the first time I did it. I'm not naturally strong. I'm not naturally studly like this guy. And I'm naturally, like, terrified of, like, life and death. And so I've listened to this guy for a really long time because he sounds like not afraid to die. It's nice to listen to some guy who's not, like, freaking out all the time. And I would imagine he has some natural predisposition to that sort of role. He's like a strong person. I think those Tony Robbins people, they say things like, I'm not naturally strong. I'm capable of being weak too. Not really. Like, these guys, like Tony Robbins and Jocko, I would believe, like, it seems like they have a thing where, in order to get, like, losers like me to think that, to be dependent on them to, like, buy their book, we have to believe that, like, we too can become like them. But it's worth noting that Tony Robbins, he was valedictorian of his fucking high school. Like, he says, like, I was a loser weakling also, but he wasn't. He was, like, valedictorian in high school. And Jocko, he was like a cool, like, punk rock guy who headed he was always kind of significantly more brave and he has, like, literally big bones, lantern jaw. I'm sure his dad was like strong. You know what I mean? Like I think a lot of these things are basically genetic. Get the point. Basically, I feel like I'm sure there's tons of like skinny, nerdy, unattractive men who dote on these people and go like, can show me the way, like can I become strong too? And meanwhile, like the guys are like heh heh heh, and they just have natural abilities that a lot of men want. They want to be strong, but these guys were kind of, the way that these guys are strong, I think you could safely say they were naturally strong. I always think like, show me the Jocko type guy who went from like mom's basement playing video games to then Studley Navy SEAL, and then back to like mom's basement video games and like skinny and like ugly and then strong lantern jaw. Like they don't do that. Like it's kind of like, if you look at somebody's life, there's kind of like consistent shit where like usually if you look at these guys like high school pictures, they were always fucking strong. They did strong, brave shit the whole fucking time. I realize there's fluctuations. People have their weak moments, but like basically I'm sure there's like core, get to the point. Basically, like I know that like from the first time I ever did this head modeling shit, when I was in 3rd grade, I never did any practice in terms of like trying to get something to look realistic. First time I ever did basically portrait painting type stuff where you can do things off of observation. It was way better than most people, to the degree where I just felt like, how come everybody else can't do like realistic art type stuff? So I think you could safely say that I have a talent in that. It's the only thing where people go like, you're actually good at that. I'm not really good at like anything else like that. And so anyway, get to the point. Long story short, like when I was I did that shit my whole life. I was naturally good at that, and so I learned a lot of anatomy shit. And then I got a career in that. When I was 32, I got a job at this place called Tagged, and I just wanted to work at a place like 2K Games or Lucasfilm. But then when I was at 2K Games and Lucasfilm, I had this pretty girlfriend, and her family was all like firefighters and stuff. And so I got some complex about like, oh, like I wasn't exposed to like kind of like low life blue collar culture. I didn't understand like how firefighters and army men were kind of like cool and like sexy. Like it's kind of sexy to be like a strong studly guy who I don't know, who fights. Like if you fight, it's kind of like there's some sort of like you can trigger your amygdala or something like that. Basically I didn't understand all that like Joe Rogan like blue collar firefighter tough guy thing. But really, like those guys are mostly genetically kind of like built for that shit. Get the point. Basically, I got some sort of like complex, and all of a sudden, I knew that like I had these like deep-seated weaknesses. But when I was 32, I was kind of in this limbo period where I knew that like I made like a decent nerd, and I had like a decent job. Basically, I got this really good job at like this place called Tagged, and I was sitting there, and I had this like kind of pretty girlfriend. But she was kind of flirting with other people. Get to the point. I just remember sitting there listening to Tony Robbins and thinking like, I hate my like cowardly nature. Like even if I get married, I'm not going to be a dad that somebody's going to be proud of. I'm so timid and I'm so scared of eye contact. And I was like, I hate my timid weakness. And I'm like, fuck this. I'm going to go quit and be a firefighter. I was listening to Tony Robbins in this job and I was thinking like, I'm ashamed of myself. I don't want to be like one of these nerdy people at this programming game company. I hated my like nerd nature, but really I am a nerd. Like that's like, I was sitting at this job and I was thinking like, I'm better than these people. I'm going to go be a firefighter. And so I quit my job to go be a firefighter, and everyone's just like, whoa, what the fuck? I remember the boss of the class basically said, or the boss of the guy who hired me at the game company place, he said like, are you sure you want to do this? And I was like, because I'm not going to be able to explain this correctly. I'm just going to ramble. No one should listen to any of this. But yeah, the boss of the company was also kind of like making fun of me. He was like always kind of like sniping at me and calling me names. And so basically I said, I quit. And he's like, what? And I just had something in my head like, I'm going to go be a firefighter. Basically I was always thinking like, I need to get braver and I need to get wimpier. Otherwise, even if I have a kid with this woman that I'm engaged to, I'm gonna be some cowardly guy. Like I can't make eye contact. Like life sucks if you can't like make eye contact. And so basically, I said I'm gonna go be a firefighter, and then I'm gonna become brave, and then I'll be like a dad that a kid could be proud of. Because if I become like some dad who just hides at a computer all day, even if I have a kid, the kid's gonna sort of be like there's my dad at the t-ball game, like he's too scared to talk to the other dads, and the kid will be like, why are you such a wimp, dad? I knew that I had these like deep-seated weaknesses that made me so shy and so prone to just isolating, that like I need to confront people. Like life is gonna suck unless I get out of this fucking computer box. And so I said fuck it. And then I went to like Chabot College. I quit my job. I was gonna go start firefighting school, and I was just thinking like, I can't do firefighting. I don't know anything about this shit. Like I can't totally change my nature. And so then I just tried to do a bunch of other video game company jobs, and I got a few other jobs, but it never really worked after that. And I just quit everything. And so I had this story in my head, like, was that the bad? Like, I'm basically wondering, like, are these guys kind of the devil? Like, are they the bad thing? Like, is there a thing where nerdy guys go like, I should be different, and really they probably should just do their nerd thing? Like, I think the mistake was thinking I could become some strong person. Like, I probably just should have been like, no, just quit looking at these firefighter strong guys and being like maybe if I be like that, then some hot chick will like me. That's probably the bad thing. I think to myself, that was probably the mistake. Like, maybe if I just stayed at that job and just accepted I am a nerd. I've always been a nerd. Kids at high school knew me as like a timid nerd. Just be a nerd. Like, that's what you can be. Don't be like, oh, like I'm not worthy, I should be. Maybe that's the mistake. What's your point? Basically, my conclusion is like, it's not really perfect. I think probably like I am like nerd. Basically, like it's. I think is along. Basically, like I think it's just not really perfect. If I was to really say like, what's what? Get the point. Just it's basically I've just kind of concluded that there's like it's somewhere in the middle. I don't know how to explain it. What am I trying to say? Just basically like I probably shouldn't have quit that job. I probably should have stayed with the job, but also I probably should have like when I was at that job, I was taking I was going to this place called True Fight Club, and they had a jiu-jitsu class, and there was always kind of this weird inkling in my chest that said like, you should take jiu-jitsu and you should take some kind of public speaking class. I know that like by nature I'm so inclined to just hide from the world and never look at a human face that like there was kind of this gnawing sense like, you got to get braver. Like, if you're going to try to become an adult, you have to confront people, and you have to like just fight this propensity to just hide at your computer. By default, I'm always going to like hide at my computer and not talk to anybody, and just fucking years go by, and I know that like meanwhile, like everybody I talk to, they see this guy who like can't make eye contact, and so there's always this feeling my whole adult life like, I gotta get braver. Like, how do you just like confront people and quit being scared? And it's just, if I don't talk to anybody for like a week, I'm back to like no eye contact and just. So anyway, like I don't know, I probably should have like fought that weakness and not quit that job. And so basically like, but I think like there is kind of a thing where like, I don't know, what am I trying to say? I know there's a lot of guys like me and people on like Tony Robbins. There's this commercial where this little nerdy guy who's like walking with Tony Robbins, and basically Tony Robbins is kind of like, you can be like me too, but those nerdy guys, they're never going to be like these guys. Like, these guys are like naturally strong, brave people they were always fucking cool. They were cool. They were in like a rock band. They were valedictorian in high school. The wimpy, skinny, nerdy guy, he's never going to be respectable to men like these guys, because these guys are naturally built and wired for like strong, brave shit. And so I just think there's a thing where these guys are a little bit like hucksters, because they say like, you nerdy guys, they're like, I know you want to be like me. I know you feel like your skinny jaw and your nerdy frame is like ugly to women, and it is ugly to women. And these guys are more just impressive, big, strong people. They know that. Look at this guy's face is like, I know you envy me. And so people wouldn't watch them if they weren't enviable men. And so I think there's a mistake where there's a lot of skinny nerds who are kind of hating their skinniness and their ugliness and their big ears, and they're like, I'm some little weakling person. They think, can I be like that? No, you'll never fucking be like those guys. Those guys were naturally that way, and you probably should stick to your nerd thing. And I've milled this over in my head over and over, and I asked like ChatGPT over and over. I said like, like, shouldn't, if you try to be some imitation cool guy and you spend a bunch of time trying to do what the big, strong, brave guys did, will it ever stick? And it says no. That's definitely a mistake. Like, you should mostly do your strength. That's why I wrote this whole thing up here. Is I really did fuck up my life, and I said this whole thing up here. Like, focus on your strengths. Those guys, they were always fucking strong, so they are focusing on their strengths. Their strengths are be strong, be impressive, and like confront people and do brave shit. And so they're doing that, but then they're kind of saying like, you too can do the strong, studly, sexy stuff, or like respectable stuff. Probably not. Probably not. And so, but that's part of their strong thing. Their strong thing is like impressing people and selling books and duping lamos into thinking like, can I be cool too? And so, what's the point? I don't know. It's not perfect. It's not perfect. These things are not really perfect. Get the point, Sean. Anyway, so there's definitely a little of that. There's definitely, I have a thing where like I really hate myself. I hate being this guy because I am full of like quiet desperation, and my whole life has just been like lots of whimpering at a fucking desk in silence. At least like this video thing at least allows me to whimper publicly, because I used to just whimper at a desk and I'd think these things, but I was like, I can't get away from this desk and I'm fucking, life is passing me by. And so now at least I can say like, I hate being a timid person and just having human after human, like so many different relationships have just kind of been like, hey, like I'm in your life is a limited time, and like we're sharing life together. Do you want to engage with me? Do you want to talk with me? I'm like, oh, later. I gotta hide at my desk. And then they go, okay. And then they like die. Like somebody will just come through my life. That was your life. That was your time with this person. You never really formed a relationship with them, and now they're fucking dead. And so it's so pathetic to just have like, my neighbor just died. It's like these things, or the whole life is like people coming in my life and like, oh, I'm working. I don't even have like a fucking job. And then meanwhile, just well, that was it. That was your time with that person. They're dead now, and like you never talked with them. And so it's really pathetic and desperate, and I fucking hate myself for that shit. The whole life there's like a little thing in me that's just like, can't you like talk to people? Like, can't you? So anyway, long story short, I've always tried to like overcome that. When I was in my 20s, I took waiter jobs. I'm like, I'm gonna learn to talk to people and connect, but it just never fucking sticks. It never sticks. I'll talk with somebody, and then it's like, and then eventually it just kind of falls away, because I'm so terrified of people. I don't understand what the fuck they're saying, and there's just so much fucking barbed wire in between me and them that eventually it's just like, it never sticks. And so anyway, it's frustrating. Anyway, what's the point? It doesn't matter. I'm already like basically dead. And so I'm just not really sure that it's solvable. There's so many things that are just kind of like not solvable. Like also like, I don't know. What am I saying? I just think like I was always kind of fucked. It doesn't really matter. Like I want to believe that I'm like a chiseled like model-esque person who somebody could make like a statue out of. Like Jocko and Joe Rogan again. When they were in their prime, you really could have made like a statue of their face, and they would have looked like cool. They would look like impressive. Me, I have this like mutant face with like a big nose and like this like shitty like I'm this like nerdy mutant guy. And so I just hate my face. Like I'm just like, it just sucks to kind of be like in the middle. It fucking sucks, because like I'll just tell myself, all right, I'm a fucking mutant, like timid weakling. I give up. I hide at my desk, and then somebody will say, well, no, like you're a handsome guy. I'm like, I'm not a handsome guy. Like women, nobody I want to fuck wants to fuck me. And then it's kind of like, it's really hard to get like a bearing on like what the fuck I am. Anyway, I've talked about this all over and over. Anyway, this sort of came up because there's this guy from like, there's a guy from, it doesn't really matter. There's a guy from my jiu-jitsu class who, I quit jiu-jitsu like 3 weeks ago. He messaged me back saying like, oh, you should like come back to jiu-jitsu. Or he sort of said like, hey, where'd you, I don't know if he said you come back. He just basically, he wrote a text that said like, where'd you go? Some people at the gym are asking about you. And so I was going to write him back and say, I quit. I'm not doing that shit anymore. But now I'm sort of, the reason I wanted to make this video, I'm sort of saying like, do you really want to quit? Like, do you want to go back there? Like, well, I don't know. I'm just going to mill this over in my head. Is like, it doesn't matter. This is all like drama shit. Get the point, Sean. Like when I was at that game company job, there's definitely been a thing in my life where like when I was at this game company that I quit, that was like a really bad mistake. The guy who hired me was kind of like this kind of bully type guy. He was kind of he'd do these sort of like little like, they would kind of make fun of me because I was always like hiding in my computer because I was always like scared of the world, and they'd go like, haha, look at Sean, he's like burying his head in his computer. And he would sort of like do these little, just not kind of generally harmless sort of like poking fun at me once he was kind of comfortable with me. And so that was, I had this complex where I was like, oh yeah, well fuck you, like I'm not gonna take your fucking bullying. And so I kind of quit. I said, hey, fuck you, I quit. And he's like, whoa, you sure you want to quit? And so I definitely do have some sort of like pride thing where like, I don't know, what am I trying to say? Just basically this quitting this jiu-jitsu thing sort of felt similar, where like I know if I go to an environment long enough and people start to know me, people are going to start like poking fun at me. My whole fucking life, people, I have this thing where people are just, they think, oh, I can like jab at you and you're not going to do anything. And so that again sort of makes me just quit dealing with people. I'm like, fuck, I know everybody wants to like shit on me and just be like, ah, Sean, you're some lower class, like you're some inferior person. And I just noticed if I sort of get the fuck away from people, I can be like, oh, I can like do more shit, because I feel like when that happens, it reminds me of like middle school. Like when I was in middle school, I just got shit on all the time. And then eventually I just felt like I can't do anything. I'm some lame-o. And then I realized if I go into isolation, I can be like, I can do like a lot more shit if I don't even talk to people, because then I'm just free. And I don't have to like play the role of this like, oh shucks, like I'm this shitty person that can just be made fun of. What's the point? So basically, that always has made me isolate too. It's as soon as I go to some group, the leader of the group or something is gonna start like knocking me, and eventually I'm gonna say like, fuck you, I'm not going back to middle school. I quit, and then I isolate, and then actually kind of everything's comfortable, but it means I can't like merge with people. What's the point? Anyway, long story short, I'm not sure there's the right thing to do, but basically I was going to this jiu-jitsu thing. It was taking like 2 hours a day. If you include traffic, it was costing like more than $300 or $400 a month if I included the gas that it cost to go there. And meanwhile, I wasn't doing these head models. And so, I don't know. What am I trying to say? Just, I'm not really sure what's right to do. Like, I think to myself, like, when I was in animation school, the nerdy guys there, they would kind of say things like, why are you doing weightlifting and jiu-jitsu? Like, you should just do your nerd thing. You're never going to be like one of those studly strong guys. And so they would kind of, when I was in animation, the guys who, there were some people who were just, they were ugly and nerdy, and they just did animation all day, and now they have like wives and families and good careers. And so sometimes I think like, that's the way to go. Like maybe the way to go is to just accept your weaknesses and just be like, yep, I'm not social, I'm timid, and I'm fine with that, and I just do the thing I'm good at, and I don't get baited into listening to some like big strong guy who was always fucking strong like Jocko and be like, oh, maybe if I'm like them, then the hot chicks will like me. Like I feel like that's, what's the point? I don't know. Basically, I'll just leave it at that. I don't really know what the right thing is. I always go back and forth and thinking like, are these type of dudes, like are Tony Robbins and them, are they the devil? Are they the devil? And like, was it a mistake to listen to them and think like, I want to be big and strong and impressive and make other men feel inferior and women impressed with me? Like, was it something like that? Like, was that the foolish mistake? Or was not being more like them the mistake? Like, should I really have quit my job and tried to be more brave and tried to do like some firefighter job or something? And maybe this like sitting at my computer was all just kind of like cowardly weakness and something. But I know from having, one thing I can definitely say is like, after I did do jiu-jitsu, like I tried to do a lot of this like imitation cool guy stuff. Like I went to jiu-jitsu for a year and a half, and I won gold medal in jiu-jitsu. And so you would think after doing a lot of this cool guy stuff that I would become like less weak and timid. But it always feels like the nature is kind of always there. Like I bet you, same with these guys. Like they could sort of fall off the horse for like a year. After that, people are still going to look at them and be like, you know, they're still studly, strong, brave people. You know what I mean? What am I trying to say? It just seems like the nature is kind of always there. The genetics are kind of always there. Like I could stop doing this head modeling shit, And I know that even if I put my pen down for like a year, I would get back at it. I'd still be able to do something that would be way. I'd still be able to do this kind of shit way better than most people. And so, what do you think? I think really like, I don't know. I've asked this like over and over and over, but I think like probably the right thing for a human. Actually, I asked ChatGPT too. In general, there's not like a pat answer for shit, but in general, it seems like the way to go for most people is to like focus mostly on your strength and then mitigate your weakness. Like if you're like a nerd, I'm a nerd for sure. If you're a nerd, like do your nerd thing, and then in your off hours, take a public speaking class and try to be like a little okay at public speaking. But if you try to be like Tony Robbins as a nerd, you're never going to be like that guy. That guy was fucking cut out for that shit from the beginning. And so what's my point? I don't know. That's my general conclusion. My life is over. I'm already fucking old and gross. And anyway, just looking in the rearview mirror, it's kind of like, yeah, I probably should have kept that game art job and just accepted that I'm not as good as I think. That was another thing too. It's like when I had that game art job, I was kind of like, when I got dissed, like when I was at that game art job, they kind of relegated me to like doing like basic 3D modeling and touch up type stuff. And I was like, how dare you? I am a great artist. And it was like, you're not really that great. And so, what's the point? I don't know. I would imagine looking in the review mirror, if there was a right way to do things, there's probably it was. I probably should have realized that like I'm not that great, but I'm okay, and just kind of, I guess, hung in there, not quit the job. I don't think it ever could have worked. Like I'm looking back in the rearview mirror, and I'm just thinking like, I don't know. What do I think? I don't know, I've said this over and over, but I think the whole life was basically fucked, because also like the whole life was kind of fucked. What am I trying to say? No, this isn't going to make sense to people, but when I keep thinking like, basically I'm struggling in my head and think like, is there a right answer? Like is life like a video game where it's like you did this right, if you just would have done this and this, you could have gone into some magic door to heaven or something. You know what I mean? Like I keep thinking like, did I make a wrong answer? I just think it's murky. I think life is kind of murky, and I could say these different things. And then, what's your point, Sean? I just think like it's not fucking. It doesn't even matter. It's all in the past now. Get the point, Sean. I don't know. Basically, I'll just leave it as that. It's like fucking, I don't know. But anyway, that's just some shit in my life. And so, and I can say all that shit, and I can just be like, I don't know. I don't know the right answer. I don't think there's like a right answer. I think the whole life is just kind of imperfect. And anyway, it's mostly in the rearview mirror now. And I don't know. Do you know? Does anybody out there? Do you know? Do you know the right thing? I don't fucking know. I don't know. Just seems like there's pros and cons to shit, and just I can talk about it and I can say, oh, then I figured out the right answer. Like I'm not sure there's a fucking right answer. I have to admit though that you can, when you listen to this guy, I was listening to his podcast, you can kind of hear this, like, even though he's like, oh, I'm so great, you can hear like a douchey thing, like hey, like I influenced you, like I lure you, want to be like me. You can hear like a douchey sort of revelry in like, I know I'm awesome, I know you losers like want to be strong and studly like me. And so like this guy definitely is like, he doesn't really kind of give a shit about does he? I don't know. You can't say it perfectly. Like he does, but he doesn't. And like everybody, you could say that kind of about everybody. You can say like, yeah, they're kind of douchey, but yeah, they help people too. And yeah, the guy killed a bunch of people and probably did really horrible stuff. But yeah, he probably helped people too. And yeah, like, you know what I mean? Like I can say like, it's this, it's that, it's the. I've just noticed this the older I've got. It's like you try to apply like these labels, and none of them fucking, some labels work more than others, but really like, you can say it's this, it's that, he's this, he's that, but it doesn't totally fit. But I think you can say like certain labels work more than others. And I think you could definitely say that like some person on my kick, they wrote like, they said that I'm like the picture of like a modern American failure. I'm like a modern failed man. And I think like you could definitely say like failure is a pretty, like, there's a lot of different terms you could put on me. Heroic, like good example for other humans is not a good label for me. I think failure is just like, yeah, I'd say like, that label, some labels work more than others, and I've definitely failed at a lot of stuff. But at least in that thing, a lot of it just came from like quitting. Like I quit that game company job, and then I worked, like I was in this room for like 8 years, and I was live streaming, and I worked my way up back to like another game company. Like I failed, and then I climbed out of the failure, and I made a portfolio, and I got hired by this company called Hip Games, and I was making models for like Niantic games. Like I was like, oh, I'm kind of back working for a legitimate game company, and then I quit again. There's definitely been a thing where like, if there's a heterosexual man who's the leader of the organization that I'm in, and it feels like he's bullying me, I quit. There's kind of like I have a real like fuck you, buddy. I'll like fuck up my own life just to not feel small. I hate to be made to feel small by some kind of like leader guy of my if I'm in some organization, if the guy starts to bully me, I go, fuck it, I quit. And it's just like, are you sure you want to do that? You're gonna like ruin your life. I'm like, yeah, I don't care. I'm not gonna go back to fucking middle school and be like shit on regularly, and then I fuck up my life. And so what's your point? I don't know, like I listen to these things, like I listen to Jocko, and I listen to these, there's something called pride. There's something like where they say that like pride is like a sin, and like there's probably a little bit of like, when I'm in that company, maybe the boss, like it's not perfect. Like if I say, was he bullying me? I don't know. There's probably something where I imagine that I'm better than I am, and I imagine that I'm more deserving of respect, and they're probably insulting me for something foolish that I'm doing. And so there's something where it's like, I'm a great man, and it's like, well, you're not really great, and probably they're insulting me a little bit because I seem like I think I'm great. What's my point? Basically, it's not really perfect. Or maybe it's just because I have like a goofy face and people have made fun of me. Everybody just makes fun of me since like puberty. It's like I can't be like a respectable person. Eventually, if people deal with me for a long period of time, it's only like a matter of time before people go like, ah, you're some goofy person. And then I say like, fuck you, I'm just not going to talk to anybody. And so I can do that. I'm very good at, I've done that for many years. It's like you can just not talk to anybody. And I don't know. I don't really know. I would imagine people who know more about life, they just say, yeah, you got to kind of take the good with the bad if you deal with people. Or you can just, in this day and age, you can just hide in your room and just not take the good with the bad. You can just be like, no, I'll take no good or bad and just not deal with people, and then I'm comfortable as hell. What's your point? I don't know. It doesn't matter. I'm 45. I have like gray hair. The best of my life is definitely in the past. I just liked being, the whole stupid life, I was just like, can't I get, I just think the whole life is not solvable. If I think about my whole fucking life, there's not like a perfect answer, and it never could have, I never could have won. I'm just like, I hate this face. I just hate the whole body. It's just this wimpy, gross body, ugly, like mutant face guy. And so it just, and then meanwhile I always crave sex with like a hot chick. It's just, it never could have worked. The whole life was just fucked from the beginning, because I always just crave like sex with a hot chick, and then meanwhile like that's inherently flawed. Like, you know what I mean? Like the whole life was just like, it could have, like, even, what am I trying to say? I'm just replaying my life, and I'm just thinking like, I want to say like, start making some right decisions, Sean, but I don't think there ever was like a right decision. Like, get the point. Basically, like, also when I was 32 and I had that good job, I was engaged to this woman who I was really like sexually attracted to. I loved putting my dick in her vagina and looking at her sexy, pretty face. But that's evil or something. That's wrong. Like, if I say to myself like, like, there's kind of like that typical voice that says, that's terrible, you should love somebody for their soul and all that stuff. And I'm like, I don't really, if I'm really honest, like, again, I don't really care about that. I guess I'm a horrible person. I know, like, if I went to a therapist, the therapist would say, that's not true. You do love somebody for a soul. Your attraction to beautiful women is about some sort of self-loathing thing, but deep down, you'll see the error of your ways, and you really do love people for their soul. And I'm like, no, I really did just want to fuck a hot chick. Like, honest to God, if I was hooked up to a lie detector test, I'm not trying to seem cool or something like that, but I'm just saying, like, if you gave, there's been times in my life when I had a really nice woman who was just perfect soul, perfect. I'm not trying to seem like an asshole, but I'm just saying, like, I genuinely don't get it, God. If there's a God, I don't fucking get how this game is supposed to fucking work. Because, honest to God, if I just think if somebody said, like, here, you can have like a hot chick to have sex with and marry her, or you can have a woman with a beautiful soul who's totally unattractive and you can't really get a boner for her. Which one do you take? Hot chick, 100%. I'll take hot chick. No question, no debate. God, if I'm hooked up to a lie detector test, give me cancer. Give me cancer if I'm lying. I just want to fuck a hot chick. That's it. I guess I'm a fucking terrible person. That's what my dick wants. Like, it. I'll take that over love. I guess I'm a wretched, terrible person. Then if I'm a wretched, terrible person, then life isn't supposed to work. It's just like I'm built in with some sort of cravings and wirings that are just incompatible with like life the way it's supposed to be. Because if I go and I say to some woman and they say, "What are you looking for?" and I say, "I just want to fuck a hot chick," they're like, "Terrible! You're like a horrible human." Then I guess God made me as like, I guess I'm a fucking mutant shitty guy that's not supposed to work with the real world. That kind of makes more sense to me than any other story. And actually, there's this movie called 300 that kind of always I kind of relate to a little bit, where there was this, again, like, I think to some degree there's always been kind of like big studly guys like Jocko, who are like, we know you want to be like a perfect man who's like a respectable warrior. Jocko basically, you listen to Jocko podcast, and he'll basically say, the best among us went and fought those wars. And they're basically, Jocko knows that like people go like, oh my God, I wish I was like you. And he's like, that's right, we're the best, and you should bow down to us. Jocko, like, he knows that like there's a bunch of impish guys in their parents' basement who are like, can I be a Navy SEAL? And anyway, there's this thing. There's basically my conclusion. If somebody's watching this, no, you cannot be a Navy SEAL guy. And I know you're gonna feel like you're gonna have some complex, and you're gonna think even if you get a woman, you're gonna know that she doesn't really like you or enough. And you're like, I know you don't like me enough. I know you see my weaknesses, but like, I'm convinced that basically, if you're like a frumpy nerd, just do your nerd thing. Like, I really did fuck up my life by basically quitting that job. I should have just done my nerd thing, and I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't have even been with that woman I was with, but I think quitting your nerd thing is definitely a huge fucking mistake. And I've asked this over and over and over in ChatGPT for sure. Like, going all in on your strength. If you have any strength in anything, like if you're a nerd and you're good at chemistry, don't try to be some imitation cool guy. Don't try to like be like, can't I be a studly guy? Then maybe I'll get like a sexy chick like the ones that I jerk off to on my phone. That's a big common mistake that I know all about. If I know anything about that, I know about that. I know about like wishing that you were some strong guy that was impressive to the women that you jerk off to, and then totally squandering your natural nerd gifts. I say, I definitely fucked. I don't know what's what. There's a lot of different stories that like don't apply to my life. That's the main thing, that the reason why I failed. The main reason I failed at my life is wasting my time trying to compensate for my weaknesses and thinking like I can become like one of the strong guys, and then squandering my natural gift. Because there's a lot of like labels, but you can definitely say that I'm good at this shit. Like, you can say a lot of different shit. I think you can definitely say I'm talented at art, and I can make good models. And so I had a good job at that, and then I was like, fuck this, I'm gonna go be a firefighter. And that's a mistake I know I did for sure. And so, what's your point? Basically, I'll say this, but like probably no one's watching this. But if you're watching this, I think if you're a nerd, like basically if you have a lot of weaknesses, don't try to put yourself in like armor and be like, I'm gonna be a cool guy, because I can tell you from having done like a lot of imitation cool guy stuff, the weaknesses are always there. Like, what am I trying to say? It's not perfect, but basically like having wasted my time. I did all this like imitation cool guy stuff. I've done lots of workouts. I still suck. I still have a frumpy body. I still have a big nose. I'm still timid and everything. And so it just seems like I didn't really know. I listened to Tony Robbins, and I thought like, Tony Robbins, he was always fucking strong, and he said like, I was a loser too, but he wasn't. He was valedictorian. And so I listened to his thing. I was like, Tony Robbins says this thing where he says like, just imagine the guy you want to be, and then you can become like that guy that you imagine. That's a mistake. That's how this guy sells books. He has a lot of like skinny nerdy guys who's like, I want to be like you too, then maybe the hot chick will like me. And then he goes like, ha ha ha, you fucking losers. You'll never be like those studly guys, and I'm sure of that because I did a lot of like I did a year of jiu-jitsu. I still am timid. I still am scared of people. The weaknesses seem like they're kind of always there, and the talents kind of seem like they're always there. I didn't really know. I tried the listening to Tony Robbins and be like, can't I change? I don't know. I couldn't. I did a lot of weaknesses, and they're still sucky. I did improv for like a year and a half, and somebody would watch my improv and be like, still not very good. I could quit this shit for a year, and somebody would be like, hey, you're good at that. And so it just seems like the thing that was good was kind of always good, and the things I was bad at are kind of always bad. That was my observation. It doesn't fit into like perfect words, but anyway, what's my point? I'm just gonna say as I proceed into death, I think that one thing I could definitely say, if probably no one's watching this, it doesn't matter what I say. But if somebody's watching this, if you're like a younger person, I could say as somebody who's spent like 45 years trying different things, I can say that for sure. It's basically like my natural strengths are kind of always there, my natural weaknesses are kind of always there, and I wish I had gone mostly in on my strengths and not squandered them to go fix my weaknesses. I think that was a big mistake. And also looking at other guys that I knew from high school. Nobody should listen to this. Also looking at other guys who I went to high school with. When I go back to my high school reunion, it's kind of mostly the same thing. It's kind of like the cool guys. The social people are still social. The strong guys are still strong. The smart guys are still smart. It doesn't seem like you can change like core strengths and weaknesses or something. What is my? I don't know. That was my observation. Maybe I'm wrong. Again, I don't think these things like fit into perfect little baskets. Like, anyway, what's the point? I've milled this over and over in my head, but it seems like if I could do my life over, I would say like, and I've asked ChatGPT. The data kind of says like mostly focus on your strengths, but then like if there's some weakness that's kind of fucking up your life, in your off hours, like maybe mitigate your weakness, but don't expect to get like really great at it. Like basically, if you're like a nerd and you're crippled by fear of people, don't go take up a waiter job full time to try to become like a social butterfly. Just get good at your nerd thing, and then maybe like do like a public speaking class a couple days a week, and try to make it so that the public speaking thing doesn't fuck up your life. But don't expect to make that like a strength. Anyway, what's the point? Yeah, that's my conclusion. It's just best to capitalize on your strength, and if you can, like mitigate your weakness. Anyway, what's the point? Anyway, that's it. That's I'll say that over and over, but anyway, what's the point? So anyway, I'm getting kind of nuts right now because here I am. What's the point? I don't know. There's some guy on my phone. He said like, "Come back to jiu-jitsu." I was gonna write something on my jiu-jitsu to the guy that just said, I quit jiu-jitsu." So now that my life is all behind me mostly, and I'm sitting here now, the past is gone. What do you want to do now? What's the right thing to do now? I don't think there's like a right thing anymore. I think it doesn't really matter that much. But yeah, I genuinely don't. I genuinely don't know. I've. What am I trying to say? Like I did jujitsu for like a year and a half or something. But then I did like a lot of like show off stuff. What am I trying to say? Basically, what I'm sitting here wondering is like, if I write this, like this guy wrote back and he's saying like, hey, you should sort of come back to jiu-jitsu. I'm basically saying like, well, if I just say like, no, I quit permanently. Basically, like in my head, like I don't want to talk about this a lot, but like when I did jiu-jitsu and I was doing these little speaking things, there's always this thing in my head where it's like, if I do that, can I become a man that can be respectable, that can get some sexy woman to like me, and then be like a respectable dad with like a hot woman? And I think to myself, that's just kind of inherently flawed. Like, what am I trying to say? I don't. What am I trying to say? I don't think you can like change your nature. Like I just think like I probably could keep doing that. I don't know. Let's just leave it at like fucking I don't know. I just think I can't become like some person who is naturally like that. You know what I mean? Like it just seems like if I funnel lots of time into fighting my nature, the nature's kind of still there. And at this age, it's just kind of like, what am I trying to say? Just I don't know. I don't know the answer. I don't know the fucking. Basically, I think it's kind of silly to think like, oh, if I keep going to jujitsu, then I'm gonna win. Then I'm gonna bend myself into some like strong guy like Jocko who's respectable to men and pretty enough to some, or attractive enough that some pretty woman will like me, and then I'll be like a father of like many kids. I just think those guys were kind of always like that. They were always attractive to women, and what am I trying to say? Just as a broad generalization, if I look back at my failure of a life, life generally got better for me when I just kind of was being myself, which basically means like hunkering down and just doing art all day and hiding from the world. Like I've done this like a lot in my life. Like even before jiu-jitsu or before I even knew about Jocko podcast, I knew I had these weaknesses, and so I took steroids a bunch of times, and I did all these public speaking classes. Like I gotta get brave, like I gotta like fight my thing, and it never stuck. Like the more I did it, there was always this feeling like, what are you doing here? Like even before I listened to Jocko, I was taking steroids, and I was going to like I was working at waiter jobs, and I was taking public speaking courses. I was taking boxing lessons too, and all I remember is just like, I'm trying to be brave. I'm gonna learn to get unafraid of people. And then meanwhile, like everything's just like nothing sticks. Like nobody buys it. No woman is like, hey, now I'll fuck you. And then eventually I go, whatever. I quit this like trying to bend myself into a stronger person. And then ironically, when I quit, like life gets kind of good. But it's when life gets kind of good, it seems to always be like basically like a nerdy life. Basically, to be really honest, life tends to get kind of good when I just kind of like forget about women. If I just sort of forget about women and I just sit at a desk and do art and I don't talk to people, then life gets kind of good. But it's not a sexy life. It's not like a life that has where I'm going to be. It basically seems like life being good in my version doesn't seem to amount to like being a respectable man to men and being attractive to women. And it usually seems like, as a broad generalization, if I try to become like a brave, strong person, it's just weird. It's like this weird thing. And then meanwhile, women don't even buy it. And I still don't look like a strong, studly guy. And then meanwhile, if I just kind of like hunker down and quiet down and do my nerd thing, life gets peaceful and everything feels wonderful, but I'm still this like inept, timid nerd. And so I don't know, I guess, what's my point? I don't know, just looking back at my life, last time that I quit, like when I did boxing in like 2015 and 2016, I did boxing and I did these public speaking classes and I did like a waiter job. I'm like, I'm going to overcome my weaknesses. It was all like weird. And then when I quit, life got kind of good. Usually when I just kind of hunker down and get peaceful and just do art all day and just be a nerd, the sun kind of comes out again. Like basically if I just cater to my strengths, life kind of just gets like, it's good, but then I'm still this like nerd. And it's like, well, I am a nerd. And so what's the point? Basically, I think that's what I'm gonna do, is I'm gonna message this guy back and say like, jiu-jitsu didn't really seem like it was going anywhere, and it's a lot of money and a lot of time, and I think I'm just gonna do art in my room. And I've milled this over my head, like that's the best thing to say, because every other time I did that, life got kind of good. But there's always this desperate craving for like, can't I fuck a hot chick and can't I have a social life? And it's like, not really. Like it's like if I do that, it never sticks. It never it just seems to be like too much against my nature. And so what's the point? I don't know, maybe that's wrong. Like maybe you should do the opposite. Maybe, I don't know. I know my brother sometimes listens to this. My brother is also like, God damn it, Sean, like we got to be braver. He says, I'm going to change. I'm going to man up or whatever. I just, I don't know. I genuinely don't fucking know the right answer on the shit. But I know that at 45, there's no women that I'm attracted to knocking at my door. I know that I kind of mostly fucked up my life. I know that, I don't know. Just what do you know? What I don't fucking know. I just basically I'm asking myself. I'm just saying like Sean. So if you go to jiu like I imagine like I'm thinking like if I go to jujitsu, like there's this thing in my head that says like if, as if life was a movie, like oh if you just like Maverick kind of bailed out and they're like come on like re-engage, he's like no it's just over, but then he hung in there and then he like saved the day. I'm thinking like can you really imagine that, Sean? You imagine you go to jujitsu and you stay at jujitsu and then you get the girl, then you're some heroic man, and then you're a dad and you're like thank god I stayed in jiu-jitsu, now I'm like a respectable dad and some hot woman is like jumping on my dick and having lots of sex with me. That's what I want. I just want to fuck a hot chick. I don't see that fucking happening. Like what's that going to lead to? Actually it's worth noting also that like when I was going to jiu-jitsu there was this other kind of like nerdy vegetarian guy who is like a skinny, he would have made a perfectly good nerd, and he was at jiu-jitsu with me and he'd been there for 7 years. He'd been there for 7 years and he was like he was telling me too like women don't, he was saying like oh I just got rejected again on Tinder over and over. And I said like oh like I get rejected by women too, like what do you think how do you think we can get like a hot woman to sleep with us? And he said I don't know, he said just do the opposite of whatever I'm doing. That guy had been at jiu-jitsu for like 7 years and he's still this like skinny guy like trying to be like I'm trying to be brave, I'm trying to be what women want, like I want to be less of a coward, I want to be strong. And meanwhile like he'd been there for 7 years, he was still a blue belt, and it was just kind of like there was kind of a sense of eventually I think he stopped going. He was going like every day, and then when I was there he kind of stopped going. He said yeah I'm just like mostly focusing on my job. And I think to myself like yeah that's probably better. Like if you want to sleep with some woman or whatever, probably just do your nerd thing. Like if you're a nerd, it just seems like you probably should like, it doesn't even just seem like that, like you can just ask these, you can ask this stuff on ChatGPT. I've milled this over and over. It's just like you can't really change your genetics. I don't know, what am I trying to say? Hey, testing. Test. Anyway, I've asked this. I've had long conversations with chat. Hey, I've talked to you a lot, and I've asked you lots of times based on your data. It's definitely better to just focus mostly on your strengths. You want to focus most of your time and your thought on your strengths and very little time and thought to your weaknesses, versus like spend extra time on your weaknesses and less time on your strengths. Just between the two, the first one is definitely way better for a successful life. Is basically like if you're talented or remotely good at something that you can have a job at, focus on that and don't waste your time trying to fix all of your weaknesses, right? So yes. Yeah, absolutely. It says like it's, and there's basically there's I've asked this over and over, but like there's just tons of data on that. There's tons of examples of people who tried to become like an imitation cool guy, who basically like they look at these guys and they're like I want to be, they want to be respectable to men and they want to be like sexy to women. Basically a combination of like lust and just fancying yourself as like I kind of look like that, like maybe I can be like that guy in the movie. Like no, like just, but that's part of those guys' thing. Part of those guys' thing is like you too can be like me. They know there's like lots of weak people who are like, can I be respectable to men and sexy to women? No, you never. Those guys were. If you look at pictures of them in high school, they were fucking always like that. They were like big studly dudes who did like brave shit. They were in like band. Like Jocko was in like a rock band. He was always like that. And just he amplified his things. Also, like you can look at Jocko podcast. You know, these guys, if you look at their fucking arms, like you look at these guys' arms, on Jocko podcast, they have these like big, like huge arms. They want to make it. Sometimes they'll make it seem like, dude, it's just. They'll literally say like, dude, it's just your attitude, man. Like I lift weights, but it's just your attitude. If you lifted weights, you could be big and strong like me. You know how you know they're fucking lying is if you Echo Charles. He's also this guy that we're like, oh, can I be big and strong like you? Echo Charles. Echo Charles has a twin brother. Echo Charles has a twin brother. Get the point. Echo Charles has a twin brother who looks exactly fucking like him. And what does he also have? Big fucking arms. He's got big fucking arms. I also have a brother. My brother, I lift tons of weights. I lift tons of weights. There's been periods of life where my brother doesn't lift any weights. Me and my brother, no matter how much weights either of us are lifting, we have skinny arms. These twin brothers, one of them might lift weights like a little bit. The other one might lift weights another way. They're big, strong, studly dudes. His twin brother is a big, strong, studly dude. All you have to do is like look at twins to just know like how much life is just genetics. Like the dude with the big fucking strong arms, lifting weights or not lifting weights, he's going to be a big, strong dude. And he's not going to look like a skinny, like little twig guy. And so I'm just convinced that like you should lean into your strengths because they're mostly kind of genetic, and you're not going to have what the other guy has, and that's just a mistake. And so for sure, I think you could say for sure, you can just ask this on ChatGPT. Testing. Testing. Test. Hey, so like, couldn't you say that for sure? Big, impressive, very tall, or just strong men like Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins, he was valedictorian or something like that in his high school, but like certainly there's a lot of men with a ton of weaknesses that Tony Robbins doesn't have who are listening to him and trying to learn from him and making the mistake of thinking that they can have the same genetics that guy does, and they really can't. Like it's better to just kind of focus on your strengths. You're not going to have what the other guy has in terms of like genetics, right? This is all kind of obvious. So yes. Yeah, so just like I never could have been like a chiseled person that was, I want to look like a model, I want to be beautiful to hot women. I never could have done that. I have like a just genetic frumpy mutant ugliness that just never fucking goes away. I have like big ears, I have a big mouth, I have a skinny jaw. And ironically, the only people who ever like me, and on top of that, I'm only really I only wanted women for like hotness. So I just think it never could have fucking worked, because throughout my whole life, if I just be myself, what's going to happen is there might be some gay guy who likes me. At least this is how life went. There'd be some gay guy who likes me. When I was younger, there was some gay guy who's like, well, I kind of like you. I'm like, well, I'm not gay. And then there'd be some like overweight ethnic chick. There's always these overweight ethnic chicks, and the overweight ethnic chick is like, I kind of like you. I'm like, I'm not attracted to you enough to like marry you, and I don't want to have an overweight ethnic kid. And then like there'd be some like Asian lady, and I'm like, I'm not attracted enough to you. And then there'd be some hot young white woman who pokes around and goes like, well, you're almost good enough. And I'm like, fucking don't leave, like I just want to fuck you and make a baby. And she's like, no, you're not strong enough. And so the whole life was just craving hot young white woman. And then if I had her, I couldn't like hold her. And then meanwhile she wants to fuck some like studly guy who looks like Jocko with like a beard, or Tony Rock. They want some like manly firefighter guy with like a pickup truck or something. And then I'm like, well, I can't. So my whole life I was kind of like, even if I got the hot chick, she'd kind of be like, this is my nerdy husband, and I'm secretly fucking a bad boy on the side. And so the whole life was just like, I can't have what I want. Like I shouldn't even want what I want. Like if you heard some character in a movie and he's like, yeah, I just want to fuck a hot chick, you can't root for that guy. I know that guy's supposed to say, no, I don't want to fuck a hot chick. I want a meaningful connection with a woman. I don't even care what she looks like. I could say that, but even if I say that and then I end up with a woman like some mousy Asian lady, I've done that before, and I'm like, I'm not fucking attracted to her, and I don't want to exchange my freedom for somebody I can barely get a boner for. And so it's like, And then she might say something like, "You're no prize either." And so just it feels like the whole life just didn't work. Like I was cursed with like ugliness that's not, I'm not good enough to have what I want, and I can't not want what I want. Like even if I've been with enough overweight ethnic chicks to just, she's gonna be lying next to me and she's gonna say, "Come on, like let's, aren't you into me?" And I'm like, I'm not attracted to it. And she's gonna say, "Well, why did you even be with me? Because you were all that would have me. I couldn't get the hot white chick." And she's like, I mean, I don't think I've ever directly said that, but that was the whole fucking life. The whole fucking life was like, I'm gonna get attractive enough to woo some hot chick, and I never could because I had too many weaknesses. And like, how do I overcome the weaknesses? And then I'd take a bunch of public speaking, I'd take steroids, and then like, even if the hot white chick is there, she's kind of like, "Can you like talk to me? Can you make eye contact? Can you be brave?" And I'm like, "I'm too weak." And she's like, "I gotta go fuck some strong cool guy." And I'm like, "Can't I become a strong cool guy?" Anyway, the whole life was just humiliating versions of that shit. And then eventually be like, "Fuck it, I give up at my desk." And yeah, but ironically, to be totally honest, what I can say for sure is that like, even though there's no hot chick, when I kind of just gave up at my desk, I want to, that's kind of what I can do. That's kind of like when I do that, life kind of gets good. And then the girls go, "Ha ha, like no pussy for you." And I know that's, and then like I eventually kind of I can kind of just basically say like, "Yeah, I'm fine with no pussy." And I can just, if I do art, I can make some good models and I can have like peace throughout the day, and I can like not be freaking out like this. And then that's kind of as good as it gets. That's kind of like, I have to acknowledge that every time I've ever kind of given up at trying to be strong, studly, or basically just if I give up at women, then kind of like after like 6 months, the sun kind of comes out again. If I just kind of like get peaceful and focus and do my nerd thing, then it's like, oh, like if I do some cardio or running and just do art all day, then like life kind of gets good again. But then some woman will come around and she'll say like, oh, like, then there'll be a thing that said maybe sexy pussy, and I go, fuck this art thing, I just want the sexy pussy, and then everything falls apart again. So basically like, that's been the whole fucking life. And so what's the point? I don't know, just, that's my stupid fucking life. So what's the point? I don't know, I can say for sure that like, if I just think to myself, now my brother was, nobody cares, but just my brother watches my life. My brother and my mom, they think that when I hunker down at my computer, they say, well, that was the most depressing period of your life. Just, I felt like the darkest time in your life, Sean, when you were just hiding at your desk and putting your head in your computer. They thought that like that was, they think that I can grow into some guy who's going to be charismatic with strength and be like, hey, woman that I'm attracted to that lets me put my dick into you, let's have a conversation. I'm going to be a dad and I'm going to just get a normal job. I can't fit that role. Like my mom and my brother, they think that like I can become some person that can sustain eye contact, socialize, and be with a woman and have like a good time. But like they don't realize that I'm crippled in so many ways that just make that completely impossible. I have like a jug of pee by my bed. I can't understand what people are saying to me. There's so many, and I don't even really like, I don't even know what I would do with a woman. Like what would we do in terms of like my whole lifestyle, and just all of my strengths and weaknesses are just, they make it kind of impossible to like be, I want to be like a normal man who can like have a good time, and like my kids go, hey, it's our dad, and like I go, hey kid, let's play baseball. There's just 50 different things that make that impossible. Like I can never accept my face. I can't even sustain eye contact. I can't even understand what the fuck people are saying. I don't even like to do anything with real people. It's like, what would we even do? I can't face the world. I can't keep a job. Like there's just like, there's 50 different things that basically say like, that's a pipe dream. That's some other person. That's Jocko. Jocko has like a bunch of kids and he socializes and he says, hello, sir. Nice to meet you. I can sustain eye contact. It's like, I wish I was strong. I wish I had no weaknesses. But the truth is I have like fucking 50 weaknesses that would just make all of that like impossible. And so I could keep going to jiu-jitsu, and I can just, again, like I went to jiu-jitsu for like a year and a half. I have no friends there. I have no like, there's nobody there. I guess there's this one guy who messaged me. But also, ironically, the one guy who messaged me, if I'm really honest, the reason we got along is both of us were like, we were the weird intellectual guy who basically like, what am I trying to say? Just I think the one guy I really clicked with was a guy who I think also shouldn't be there. Like the guy who messaged me, he's a 60-year-old guy there. When he goes there, he just gets beaten by people. Like when he fights with me, he can do absolutely nothing against me. Like I beat him every time, and I just kind of wonder like, why are you here? Like you seem like you. And I would imagine, I could be wrong, but I would imagine that guy also thinks like, if I go, I want to be, I want a sexy young chick. And I just think like potential for sexy young pussy is like just foolishness. Just I think there's a lot of situations where men who are probably never eligible for the kind of women that they jerk off to on their phone get some little thing that says like, psst, if you just do that imitation cool guy stuff, then maybe you can fuck the women that you jerk off to on your phone. And I'm like, I know all about that. Like, and when I was at that jiu-jitsu, anytime I was close to some like basically hot young white woman who I actually would have wanted to fuck, she would just look at me like, don't even try. Like I know all about you. I know you want to fuck. You're an old gross guy with no money. Not a chance. And I'm just kind of like, what's the point? Basically, I know if I keep going to jiu-jitsu, if I expect to fuck a sexy young woman and be some, if I expect to be like some studly guy, it's like, I beat this guy in jiu-jitsu, I'm the fucking man, and I'm fucking some like young sexy woman, and I'm like a fighter, strong, studly guy who can make men feel small and impress some woman and then fuck her after I beat some guy in a fight. That I can't do that. But that's like a weird, like sick. That's like a weird, sick fantasy. There's something very amygdala inducing about like fighting and then fucking. That's like, yeah, I want to beat somebody in a boxing match and be like, I'm the fucking man, and then have some like hot blonde chick suck my dick and like, and fuck her pussy and have her something like, oh, I love you. You're so brave and strong, and like that just even talk about that gets me like worked up. But the reality is, 45-year-old man, ugly, living at my dad's house, and I can't sustain eye contact. That's the real situation. Those genetics don't really go away. And so I think that's the mistake, is basically like when I jerk off to hot blonde chicks who I imagine could possibly look at me with like lust, that's the fantasy. The fantasy is thinking like basically that I could have the hot blonde chick and then thinking like I could become somebody that those women would like actually be attracted to. So what's the point? I don't know, but just basically at like 45 years old, after enough time, there's kind of like, that's what you did. You can just look at like the data. What am I trying to say? Just if I look at my life, it's like, I know you have all these fantasies of like, can't I become this and that? But over time, like, what did you actually do? A lot of like sitting at a computer and just doing art stuff. And I don't think you can change your nature and just, all I know is that like, life got better when I just did art stuff, and life tended to get worse when I hated who I was and I wasted a lot of, when I took steroids, or when I abandoned what I was good at, which is this art stuff, and then tried to like fight my weaknesses. That's when life got really bad. Like every time I tried to be like the man, or I said like, fuck this art stuff, I want to do social brave stuff, then life gets worse. It's weird because like I sit here and I think, I'm such a coward, I should face my weaknesses. But ironically, every time I did that, I don't know, it's not perfect, but usually when I did that, life got kind of worse and it never stuck. Like I did this again, like I quit this job that I had as a game artist, and I'm like, I need to be braver. I want to be like respectable, so I can be like a dad or something like that. I want to be brave. So I started my own business, and I got on Adderall, and I tried to be like a CEO. I started this company. Again, even if I get the job, it never sticks. Like even if I do the imitation cool stuff and I do the brave stuff, eventually I'm in some situation like, all right, like, can you do it? Can you do the brave thing? And eventually it never. It seems fake. It seems like basically if I put myself in some environment where I'm facing my weaknesses, even if I am in that environment and people go, okay, we believe you as like the jiu-jitsu guy. Do you want to do jiu-jitsu? And it's like, no, I don't even really like this shit. I'm just trying to fight my weaknesses. It's like, well then. So basically, like, what am I trying to say? I don't know, but basically, if I look back at my stupid life, like, I think for sure you should focus on your strengths. I'm not sure how much you should fix your weaknesses, but I can say that is like when I just kind of like gave up at like strong guy Basically, when I did what a lot of people just say is like cowardice, and I just kind of like did art all day, then life got good. At least I kind of liked who I was better. And when I tried to do some like macho shit, life got trashy. Like I looked trashy and just, what's the point? I don't know. That's my conclusion over and over. It's just, if you're a nerd, probably best to just do your nerd thing, and don't try to be some imitation cool guy. That seems like, yeah, I think again, I'm not sure it's like one or the other, but anyway, that's what I remember. What do I remember? Just when I quit doing all that imitation cool guy stuff, if I just sat in my room for basically, if I just do art and I do drawing, life gets better, but it doesn't get cool. That's kind of the thing too. Is like, I don't want to talk about this a lot, but I'm getting nuts about this. Just conclude this rant, Sean. What are we gonna do? Basically, I'm gonna write back that guy and just say like, jiu-jitsu didn't really seem like it was going anywhere, and it was a lot of time and money, and it didn't really seem like it was going anywhere. So I'm just gonna mostly just do creative projects at home. Yeah. Is that good? Yeah, it feels like cowardice, but that kind of tends to make life better. And then meanwhile, even if I do the brave stuff, it never catches on. Like, I know in my head, even if I do the brave stuff, I'm just going to get some single mom, and I'm not even attracted to her. Like, I can't see getting like a beautiful woman that I'm attracted to. I can't see being happy with some Asian lady, overweight ethnic chick, or single mom, and that's always the fucking options. And then I can't see like powwowing with like strong dudes, because I'm not strong. I'm like a nerdy guy, and so just basically I can't be cool. I can't be respectable. I can't be what the women want. I can't be what's inspiring to men. And those fucking Jocko dudes, they were always fucking like that. But then they say this thing, I know you want to believe that. I know you want to believe that you can't be like me. But they were always fucking strong and studly. And also like their dads were like that. Like I've listened to enough Navy SEAL dudes to know that like they were always strong, and oftentimes their dads were fucking strong. And I know they definitely have a ton of people buying their books being like, can I be strong and like you? And like, no. Haven't you done enough to see that like it seems like just anyway, I've asked this over and over, but for sure focusing on your strengths is definitely better. And you can just I've asked ChatGPT this over and over and over and over, and ChatGPT says, yes, between the two, focus on your strengths. Don't get baited into fixing your weaknesses. That's a very common human folly that I've seen a lot of people do. So what's the point? Yes, so basically I'm gonna write that guy back and say, I give up at trying to be a cool guy, and I wish I never really tried to become a cool guy. I wish I just kind of stayed in my lane, and then I probably wouldn't have gotten a hot chick. I actually, even being with that ex-girlfriend that I was with, being with her was probably a mistake. I probably should have just not catered to less. I probably should have just done my career and just been celibate, and just kind of like, I probably shouldn't even be with women, because what do I think? I don't know, it just doesn't work. Like, it's like, I don't know. What do you think, Sean? I don't know, but all I know is every time I've ever quit the imitation cool guy stuff and quit trying to fight my nature and quit trying to be brave and doing a bunch of like public speaking jackass stuff, and as soon as I just kind of hunker down and do my nerd thing quietly in isolation, like life gets better, but it doesn't get cool. It doesn't get like respectable or like sexy. It just gets like, yeah, you can do good models, and they're not even really that great, but that life is kind of peaceful, and I'm not all like neurotic like this. And so that's how it was always in the past. So what's some point? So basically I've been making this video trying to think like, what's the right thing to do? Yeah, that's the right thing to do is like, all I can say is that like, yeah, last time I quit boxing and I quit trying to be like, I'll show the women, I want to be what the women want, and like the women are like, we don't fucking like you. And then after I go, okay, I give up. If I just kind of put my head down and do art, life gets good, but it doesn't get sexy. It doesn't get like cool. I can't be sexy, I can't be cool. If I try to be sexy and cool, life is just like, what the fuck are you doing here? And then if I just sit down and do nerd stuff, it's not sexy and cool, but at least it's good. It's like better. It's that's kind of as good as it gets for me, I guess. It's just basically just being myself, I guess. And myself is just not what I want. I want to be impressive to men, and I want to be sexy to hot women, and I can't be. And so it's kind of as good as it gets. So I'm just going to write the guy back and say, what am I going to say? What am I say on my text message? Now I know when I do this, there's going to be this voice in my head that says, "Coward, you coward. That's the coward's path. You should just do jujitsu. If you would have done jujitsu, you would have become a strong, studly dude who's impressive to men and sexy to some sexy woman." No, I wouldn't. I'm old, and if after it just would have been like more jackass stuff. And it never fucking sticks. Like, you would think, like, after like a year and a half of that, there'd be some woman that likes me. Like, that's why I keep making these videos and saying, does anybody want to fuck me? Like, I'll fuck any woman. Women are nobody wants to fuck me except some like single mom. I'm like, not you. I want a hot young white chick. Terrible. You should want a other old gross person. It's like, well, I don't. And so, what's the point? Anyway, what were you gonna say? I was gonna say that. Yeah, basically chasing lust and trying to be cool usually makes a fool out of me. And every other time that I've kind of given up that shit and just knuckled down and did like art and just been like an art nerd, life gets kind of good. But it doesn't become sexy or cool because I'm not sexy or cool. And I think I'm going to go ahead and say that like that's what I'm going to do. Now also it's just basically be like, I don't know, I did jujitsu for a year and a half. It doesn't seem like it's going anywhere. I mean, life didn't really get like a lot better. I kind of hate who I am now more. And so what? It doesn't really seem like it's going anywhere, and it takes a lot of time and money. And I'm just gonna stay at home and do creative projects. I'm gonna mostly stay at home and do creative projects. But it was a good experience and cool to hang out with you guys. That's what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna say, yeah, jujitsu. I mean, really, like, to be really honest, jujitsu is basically like it's 20 minutes driving there, it's 20 minutes driving back, so that's 40 minutes of just driving. It's $200 a month of gas. It's $220 or $210 for the fee. So it's $400 a month, and then literally like the class is an hour. 20 minutes of the class, you're doing these little light calisthenics that don't even, because you have to do calisthenics with everybody else, you do these little lame exercises. You do the exercises at the level that the weakest people in the class do. So you're doing these little calisthenics, which aren't even giving you a workout. Like they're too easy because there's like some fat guy in the class and everybody has to just do like 10 push-ups because the weakest guy in the class can only do 10 push-ups. So 20 minutes of the class is doing a bunch of calisthenics, which are barely doing anything. And then another 20 minutes of the class is learning some move that you're never going to use. Like every class is like, it's kind of stupid. Like they should really change jiu-jitsu. It could be the whole class could be really improved a lot because 20 minutes of class is doing some calisthenics that do you very little good that you could do better on your own. And then 20 minutes of every class, you're learning this move that nobody in the class is using. Like you go to the class, the teacher says, I guess the teacher has to have a job that they have to have a reason to be there or something like that, besides just making sure people don't injure themselves. And so every class, 1/3 of the class is the teacher showing this move that nobody does. Like every class, the teacher, he'll show this move, and then at the end of the class, he'll say, who did the move? Everybody will line up and say, who did the move that we spent 20 minutes doing? Nobody will raise their hand. And you'd think after class, the teacher would be like, maybe we should just roll. Like maybe people should learn their own move. Like it seems a very inefficient way to just say like every class, they learn a move they're going to do. Who did the move? Nobody did the move. And you're like, why are they doing it? Well, because the teacher needs a job. The teacher needs to feel like needed, I guess. But like, it's kind of like a very inefficient sport. Meanwhile, if you do jiu-jitsu, you're never going to fucking use it in real life. But what's probably going to happen is if you talk to a black belt, they have like a hip replacement, knee replacement, neck problems, disc replacement. It's like probably never going to use it. You do it for 10 years, probably going to have permanent body damage. My fingers are like kind of numb when I wake up in the morning. I'm losing sensation of my fingers. Seems like a lot of bad stuff. You can say like, I do jujitsu, I do what you fear. It's like, yeah, you can feel like a cool guy, but like, it basically seems like a lot of time and money doing a bunch of things that are kind of inefficient to basically feel like I'm fucking cool. But meanwhile, like, there's probably better ways you could spend your. I just think probably should just do your nerd thing, but it's definitely good for overcoming fear of humans. Like the time that I was doing it, I'm less scared of like talking to a teller at the checkout stand. But really, like, you know, another thing I will say is like when I listen to Jocko says like, jiu-jitsu will make you better at everything in your life. You know how you know that that's not true is that like if it made you better at everything, like playing violin or doing whatever you're good at, then the best people in every discipline would do jiu-jitsu, right? Like if it made you better at violin, the best violinist would do jiu-jitsu, but he doesn't. He just does violin all day. Why? Because it's just, you should just do your nerd thing. You're not going to be like the fucking, what's the point? I think a lot of, they just want to be like badass people. They want to get like a tattoo and be like, I'm a fighter. Yeah, fucking. They want to like be sexy studly, but really the sexy studly people, what's one? I don't know. I'm not gonna knock it. It's got some pros and cons, but but basically I think it's too much for too little. Because you're not really gonna use it. You're probably gonna get injury, and it's just a ton of time and money for not. 1/3 of the class is actually rolling. Actually, really like a lot of times in our class, only 1/4 of the class was actual rolling. Like sometimes they only let you do 3 matches, and so it's basically like 15 minutes of it. You're actually doing the jiu-jitsu. You got to wash your clothes every day too. Like really, it's like a 2.5 hour ordeal. It's probably gonna. It's just. It seems like it's too much for too little. Anyway, I could say, yeah. What's the point? I don't know. There's fucking pros and cons to it. Some people like it, but also the other thing too is like the people who are really great at it. They don't seem like really great specimens of like. They don't seem like if I look at the people who are like black belts. Like they don't seem like the best people in the world either necessarily. Like they do like things where I'm like that doesn't seem right. Like they insult their students and stuff. And like people that I respect more, they don't really do that. Also, like there's people who I really respect, like the most. They seem like they're sort of nice to people more, or they seem like they do things smarter. They don't sort of like I don't know what I mean. There's just there's some sort of like low life. Like we're bad, we like being bad, we like being mean that I don't like about jiu-jitsu. I don't like the like niceness is weakness, like you should insulting people is cool, like fuck you. I hate that like tattoo, it's good to be mean to people stuff. Really like basically I think a lot of the people that a lot of the things that people really like about jiu-jitsu I inherently don't like. I don't like tattoos. I don't like yeah, it's cool to be bad. Like yeah, it seems like it kind of pays. It's if you like sort of like it's cool to hurt people, like we're predators or something. Like, if you like that, then maybe you like jiu-jitsu. But like I tend to like leaders who are generally like nice to people. They don't like shit on the people publicly and say like I there's a lot of aspects of jiu-jitsu. Even Jocko, there's a lot of aspects of Jocko where I'm like he's not like a leader that I would. He's not the best human in the world really. Like if I look at him, there's a lot of ugly aspects and stupid aspects to him, and you know, I like the like Captain Picard type people. If I had to say like who's like a really good specimen of human, Captain Picard's a fictional person. Basically, what am I trying to say? There's just a lot of virtues kind of missing from the Jocko jiu-jitsu world where I'm like something's not right. Like that whole badass thing is like you need like the more goodness or niceness in that domain, and I'm not really sure what to make of that, but I don't know. Anyway, shit's not perfect. Nobody's listening, right? That's something I keep note. I can say this over and over till the cows come home, but that's something I really noticed in life in general. Is like you go to any group, it's kind of like colors. Remember, nobody's listening, right? I used to play Magic cards, and in Magic cards, it's a similar thing where like any faction is there's a spectrum. There's a spectrum of like people. If you go to red is good. It's hot. It's impressive, but it's not cool. It's not peaceful. What am I trying to say? I just think that's true of any domain. Like you go to any group of people, they're going to be somewhere on the color wheel, and it's not complete. Like you need these different types of people in different places, and they're all going to have like a little bit of like they're lacking. They're all fucking lacking. Does that make sense? Probably no one's watching, but just I think you could go to any domain of people. There's only so much time in the day. People have their different strengths and weaknesses, and they're all kind of incomplete puzzles. They're missing some puzzle piece where they're not good for everything. And so, what's the point? I don't know, whatever. But basically, long story short, I think I've milled this over in my head enough to know that like quitting jiu-jitsu is the best thing for me, because every other time I've quit some macho thing and just done art, life gets better, but it doesn't get cool. It's like, me at my best seems to be like just not cool, not sexy. If I try to be cool and sexy, somehow life gets kind of worse. And God, I wish when I'm jerking off to hot blonde chicks, I wish I could be strong and sexy, but I'm just not. I'm just not sexy. And now I'm old. And it's a broad generalization. I wish I stuck to my nerd thing. I wish that if I had to choose, if when I was 32 and I had a job in this, I shouldn't have gotten baited into like, oh, I'm going to become a firefighter so I can be sexy or something like, or strong. I should have just been like, I have weaknesses. They're never going to fucking go away. And if I do my nerd thing, I could have a good life with like a good job, but it would never have been sexy or strong. And so I should have just known that like you can't change your genetics. And so I kind of fucked up my life, but I'll continually say that if anybody's watching this, like if you're a young nerdy person, I can say for sure that I was never able to change my genetics. And the thing I was talented at, I was kind of always talented at. And anytime I wasted a lot of time trying to fix my weaknesses, they were still always there. And so I can just say like I statements. If there's anything I can say that I know about in my failure of a life, it's that fighting my weaknesses never really got rid of them. And my strengths were kind of always there. And I listened to Tony Robbins and I thought, you can just become the cool guy that you wish you were. I wasn't able to do it. And every time I ever tried to do that, life kind of got ridiculous. So it's point. Just, do with that information what you will. Probably no one's watching this, but I know that the last time I quit trying to become a cool guy and just did my nerd thing, life got way better, but it didn't get sexy or cool. Like because I'm not sexy or cool. Yeah, so basically that's what I'm gonna say. It's just, what am I gonna say? How am I gonna phrase this correctly? Because I'm writing this, I'm thinking like, dude, this is when you could have turned it all around, Sean. If you just would stick to jiu-jitsu, if you just would have hung in there, you would have been able to become the studly, strong, badass guy that women want. No, you wouldn't have. You wouldn't have. Also, I just have to think back. There was this other guy. There was other guy in the class, skinny, nerdy vegetarian guy. He was always skinny, nerdy vegetarian. He'd been there for 7 years, and he still was a blue belt, and he still was like not good. And there was kind of a feeling like maybe you should just do your nerd thing. Like you're trying to become the cool guy, but like the cool teacher guy, he was always fucking cool. He was those big strong dudes. But they're gonna say like, no, they want you to like want to be like them. They know if you go do their thing, they're like, ha ha ha, that's right. My activity is the cool thing. Everybody wants to be a strong dude. And so I think there's a lot of nerds who get baited into that and they muck up their nerd thing. And meanwhile, there's like some jock dude who's like, ha ha ha, you want to be like me? Because the jock dudes, they sneer at the nerds. They're like, you think you're better than me, and so they love it when like some nerd tries to change sides. And so I don't know. When I tried to do that, it usually made life worse. So that's my conclusion over and over. It's like I already fucked up my life. I tried to go to the dark side or whatever. But if you're a nerd, probably no one's watching this, but I always say this. I'm going to just leave this on here. If you're a nerd, focus on your strength. I didn't focus on my strength. I neglected my strength and tried to become a jock, and it never fucking worked. And so I did I did steroids. I did weightlifting. I'm still going to do weightlifting just to get rid of depression, but I still have skinny arms. My brother has skinny arms. That Jocko guy and that Echo Charles, their family has big arms. They're fucking Echo Charles guy's got these big arms. People look at him like, can I get big arms too? His twin brother has big arms. He probably doesn't even do the same weightlifting the other guy does. It's fucking genetics, and so it's hard to accept your fucking genetics, especially if you want to fuck a hot chick. It's really common folly for the nerd to be like, can I become one of the respectable guys who gets to fuck hot chicks? Well, but if you want to fuck a hot chick, best bet is getting good at your nerd thing. There's not many examples of nerds who fucked a hot chick just even trade sexiness for sexiness, but until they have universal basic income, there are examples of nerds. Basically, like ironically, if you want to fuck a hot chick, your best bet also is to get good at your nerd thing. Like Quentin Tarantino, for sure you can say he's a nerd, and he got to fuck a hot chick, but he didn't do it by trying to become an imitation cool guy. He did it by getting good at his nerd thing, and that's what you. That's the. If you, I know a few nerds who get to fuck hot chicks in real world. They just got good at their nerd thing. I know a lot of nerds from high school who tried to become an imitation cool guy, and they didn't get to fuck hot chick, and they squandered their natural nerd gifts. And so, ironically, if you want to fuck a hot chick, if you don't get to fuck hot chick or you want to fuck hot chick, best path is to get good at your nerd thing. If you neglect your nerd thing, you try to become an imitation cool guy. Not only will you squander your natural gifts, but you also will be less likely to fuck a hot chick. And so that's a hard motherfucking fact of life. But that's, I don't know, that's my story. I'm sticking to it. Just focus on your strength. I've milled this over and over. Don't get baited into trying to become an imitation cool guy. The cool guys they were always fucking cool. But they're going to say, like, no, I know you want to believe that, but they were. They just look at their high school stuff. So what am I going to say on this thing? I'm going to say, like, what am I going to say? I'm going to say, like, hi, John. It just, it didn't really seem like it was going anywhere. It's a lot of time and money. And I'm just going to stay at home and do art projects. But thanks, and it was nice hanging out with you. It was nice hanging out with you. Yeah. What did I say? Hi, John. Hi, John. What am I going to say? I'm going to say, I'm a coward. No. I did jiu-jitsu. I did it for a year. I got a gold medal. It wasn't fucking going anywhere. No women want me. I'm fucking 45. Just, what's the point? I'm still terrified of eye contact. Anyway, what are we doing? Hi, John. Jiu-jitsu didn't seem like it was going anywhere. Didn't really seem like it was going anywhere. Anywhere for me. It didn't seem like it was going anywhere for me. It was just a lot of. It was too much money and time. It was too much money and time without a lot of benefit for me. Without enough benefit, it was too much time. It seemed like too much time. It seemed like too much time and money. Money for not enough benefit. What am I saying? Jiu-jitsu seemed like it wasn't really going for me. It seemed like too much time and money for not enough benefit for me. So I'm just gonna mostly focus on. I'm just gonna mostly focus on my strengths, which is art. So I'm just gonna do art projects home. Hi, John. Jiu-jitsu didn't seem like it was going anywhere for me. It seemed like too much time and money for not enough benefit for me. So I'm just gonna focus on. I'm just gonna do art projects. I'm just gonna do art projects. But it was good. It was good hanging out with you guys. and fun experience. Does that sound right? Hi, John. Jiu-Jitsu didn't seem like it was really going anywhere. Going anywhere for me. It seemed like too much time and money with not that for not very much, not enough benefit for me. So I'm just gonna do art projects. But it was good hanging out with you guys and a fun experience. Have a good one. Is that good? Yeah, it's typical, like lame, nerdy Sean giving a text message and not talking. But yeah, fuck it. That's Is that true? Everything I said on the text messages is definitely true. It was fucking 3 hours a day. I'm more of like a low life now. The fucking, like, nobody fucking talks to me. Like, nobody. I was never connecting with anybody. Like, I was forcing all this, like, I'm gonna confront people, but meanwhile, like, I'm still like a nerd that, like, nobody fucking. No women are attracted to me. No women I'm attracted to are attracted to me. No, I'm not gonna grow into some strong social person. Like, I can force all the shit. Also, like, another thing I realize is if I go off a video, I'm just gonna. My nature is to just do art stuff. Like, a lot of this is basic. A lot of what I'm doing on video is I'm trying to, like, convince some young hot woman that, like, I can be brave, I can be social. But really, like, Lord knows if I was off. If I was off camera, my nature is just like I want to just hunker down and just do some like cerebral art focus thing, and life gets kind of beautiful, but it doesn't get cool or sexy. That's kind of weird. It's like I can't become the cool, sexy person that can get a hot chick. That's kind of a fantasy, and I can like chase that fantasy, and eventually it never fucking works because I'm not cool or sexy. I'm a nerdy old guy with like a fucking frumpy face and skinny shoulders, and that's the reality. And so but next life I want to be a studly Jocko guy who makes men impressed and is like not constantly made fun of because he's genetically respectable and strong. I want to be one of the strong studly guys that gets to fuck hot chicks, but in this life it's not in the fucking cards. And every time I try to chase that, it's just jackass shit. And also no hot chick. And I just think that the mistake is like, when I jerk off to the hot chicks, I think, maybe if I do the cool stuff, I'll get like a hot chick. But like, what happens is I squander my nerd thing. And then also, ironically, if I would have done the nerd thing and I would have had a job, then maybe a hot chick. Then maybe I could have got some gold digger chick to suck my dick and fuck me while she was cheating on me with the studly pool guy. But like my best bet was probably to just keep my game art job, then maybe fuck a like semi hot chick. Actually, my ex-girlfriend, she was like almost hot, but like she was buried under like she was like a kind of pretty, like kind of sexy woman buried under 100 pounds of extra fat, who really was always kind of like flirting with the bad boys. She would like write. I don't want to talk nasty about her because she might watch this and sue me because she doesn't even fucking care about my life. But basically, like, I'm like by nature I'm like really shallow, and maybe if I would have just done this, I could have had some sexy hot gold digger chick who I would have had not very much in common with, who I would just be with her because she was hot, and just I don't know, just the whole life was fucking fuck from the beginning. But anyway, what am I trying to say? Just even when I had that job, I had like a pretty woman who probably just wanted me for money. She probably just wanted me. I don't really know, but it seemed like she doesn't want me now that I have no money. So I'm guessing like she wants somebody. I could be wrong, but it seemed like she might just want somebody to like pay for her. And so, like, maybe if I would have kept the job, I could have been with some pretty woman who was. She might have stayed with me if I paid for her, and then maybe she would have just, cheated on me with some bad boy guy or something. I'm just going to go ahead and say that, like, that was the mistake. The mistake was catering to sexiness. I probably should have just kicked her out. Like, probably, like, I should have said, like, just dump the stuff that doesn't work. Like, just, I think catering to sexiness was the mistake, and I should have just done my nerd thing. And if I would have kept that job and ditched the pretty girl, I would have never been cool, never been sexy. The pretty girl could go fuck the cool guy, but I could have just done my nerd thing, because I'm a nerd. And what's the point? I don't know. Maybe I think like probably that's what happened before. If I quit the imitation cool guy stuff and I just do art, life gets good, but it doesn't get cool or sexy, and that's probably just as good as life could have gone. So I don't know. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. It's just, for sure I can say that last time I took boxing, it was all just weird. It never connected with anybody. And then when I quit and I just did art, life got good, but it didn't get cool. And so, because I'm not cool, I'm not sexy, and I wish I was, but if I try to do that, life just gets jackass, like weird shit. So, even like everything I'm doing on this video, it's like trying to appeal to some young woman. That's the whole lure of this, is like, if I try to be insightful and I try to look, I can talk. It seems like I'm like a talker, but if somebody talks to me in real life, they're like, you don't even really talk. And I'm like, I know, it's all just trying to impress some. It's just lust. Everything I'm doing here is just like, I jerk off to hot chicks, and then I think like, maybe I can convince some hot chick that I'm a wild and crazy guy, and it's all bullshit. It's just like this. Basically, if I was not videoing and I was being myself, being authentic, my authentic self is just quiet, timid nerd guy, and that's not compatible with a woman or a job, I guess. I don't know. It's just like, myself is not compatible with the pussy that I crave. I just crave pussy, and so it's like, it just seems like my life is not supposed to work. I'm not, the things that I'm good at, they're not aligned with like what I want in terms of like a life. And so I don't know, that's what do they say? It is how it is. And just what am I saying? I don't know, I'm just trying not to go crazy, but in general, I think if I could have done my life over again, I would have just done my nerd thing and just been like a timid nerd and just stayed at the job and just forget about like sex. I think like, it's a broad generalization. Again, I don't think these things are perfect. They don't fit into like neat little categories. It's not like there's a right answer and a wrong answer. But all I can say is that whenever by and large, as a broad generalization, whenever I tried to hate myself and be like, I gotta be a stronger person so I can be respected by the men and sexy to the women, life got worse. And then when I tried to, when I gave up and just said, all right, let me just be myself. Let me just do what I naturally, what am I naturally strong at? Life got better, but it made me a timid, nerdy person. And I guess that's just as good as it can get. It's just, I could have been like a timid, nerdy guy who does good enough work for a game company, but no sexy chick and no studliness, because I'm not sexy or studly. And I think that's probably what I should have done. And so, what's the point? Just, I don't know, but take that for what it's worth. Nobody's watching this for like advice, but I do think that that's a trap. I think there's a trap that many nerds fall for when they run it. They listen to some Joe Rogan guy or Jocko guy, and there's some voice in their head that says, dude, you're not going to get any pussy with that nerd stuff. Do you even lift, bro? Do you even lift? And they go, oh, I should be a cool guy. And then like, they abandon their nerd thing, and then they try to start like a rock band, or they take jujitsu, or they get like a tattoo, and meanwhile they're never going to be the studly cool guy. Like they just got bullied, and now they abandoned their nerd thing. And I can tell you, I know all about that, and that's led to a lot of failure. And so what's your point? I don't know. I'm not sure life doesn't fit into these little stories. So I'm sure there's a different story that some other guy said. It said, no, I was a nerd and I did the strong stuff, and now I have like a strong life. I don't know, whatever. Fucking that's actually the one thing I can say for sure, is that I'm really unsure that any of these stories totally graft onto reality perfectly. Like, I noticed that, but I can. So again, I always try to I'm trying to use ChatGPT to basically figure out like, what's the data say? Like, I can say like, I've said this over and over, where I'll say like, it's this, it's that. You can flip-flop on those. You can say that till the cows come home. But what you can't argue with is the data. The data basically says like, testing based off of data. You have like lots and lots of data. Based off of data and like the accounts of like lots of other people's lives and psychological examinations of the way people's lives panned out. Like there's been observations of how successful people's lives have gone and failures' lives have gone. And doesn't the data basically say that like just focusing on your strengths and not getting baited into trying to fix all your weaknesses is just a way better strategy for success than just spending too much time on your weaknesses and neglecting your natural strengths. Right? Yes? Yes. So, I mean, whatever I say, it doesn't fit into these little perfect categories, but the data and just my own life observations and my own just complete failure of a life has shown me that, like, the natural strengths are kind of always there. Like, to be really honest, the first time I ever did this kind of shit, which is basically like art based off of observation, I was naturally good at it. I'd never even practiced. I just did it in third grade. Everybody else seemed like they couldn't do this thing that I thought was really easy, and I won second prize in a Marin County Fair. I'd never even done art. It was like the first time, and the first time at that same in third grade also, we had Junior Olympics around that same time, and the first time they put us on a track and they said, everybody race as fast as you can. I came in like the back. I was in the back of the pack. So again, like, there's a lot of things in like early life where it's like before you practiced a lot, you were probably naturally good at some shit. And it just seems like at 45 years old, like 40 years or something after that, I'm still kind of just good at the thing that I was naturally good at. I can be like, basically like, and I had a job at that. I wasn't great, like I'm not like a great artist, but I had like a good game art job, and I quit the job because I thought I gotta be a strong, brave, sexy person, and I'm gonna go become a firefighter. And then life was just a total failure after that. So I'm convinced of that. I'm convinced that, like, if you're like if you're a nerd, or if you're good at something that doesn't get respect or pussy, don't try to become some imitation cool guy, because I know some guys from high school and they did that and it never stuck, because you can't change your genetics, I guess. At least that was my observation. You can, it seems like I can mitigate them, like I could run a marathon now, but I'm never going to get paid for running. So at this point, I don't know, just, that's what I can say. It's like the data says, if you ask ChatGPT, like, I didn't know, I listened to Tony Robbins and I thought, I can become the person I imagine too. I want to be a brave, strong, sexy guy who impresses men and makes sexy women want to have sex with me. I never could do that. I never, like, did I do that? It was all fake. It was all, like, nobody's listening. I don't want to mill this over my head. But when I was 32, I tried to become an imitation cool guy. I started my own business. I got hopped up on steroids and I took Adderall. And I did get a kind of pretty woman to sleep with me. But it wasn't sustainable, because we really didn't have anything in common. And the job was just kind of like, I didn't even really like business or whatever. What's some point? I don't know. But basically, like, I can go back and forth about like what's right. The data basically says, yes, based on large amounts of vast data I process, which includes countless accounts of individuals' lives, psychological studies, observations of success and failure, the overwhelming evidence strongly supports the strategy of focusing on your strengths. So that's kind of what, if I could repeat my life, I would say just focus on your strengths. Next life you can be like an actor or like a, cool guy, but you can't really change your genetics. And if you look at Joe Rogan, he was fucking always cool. And so anyway, who knew? You never know till you try. Anyway, I tried, but it seemed like every time I abandoned my strength and tried to fix my weaknesses, life got trashy and just like, what are you doing here kind of stuff. And then when I gave up at trying to fix my weaknesses and I just did my nerd thing, life got better, but it didn't get sexy or I got better, but I became like a more peaceful kind of nerdy guy, and I still wasn't eligible for sex with supermodels, and I wasn't like some fiery, strong example of male macho greatness. And so what's the point? That's my general conclusion, is just, if you be yourself, you can be good, but it's not going to be like all the stuff. It's just I don't know. Everything I'm saying is potentially bullshit, but the data says overwhelming focus on your strengths makes for like a better life. And you might not be strong at the shit you wish you were strong at. And so you just gotta, I don't know, you're supposed to say next life, I want to be a strong, sexy guy. But this life, I'm just not. I'm skinny, and I couldn't change my genetics. But I tried, but every time I tried, it just made for fucking awfulness. Anyway, that's it. So who knew? Who knew? You never know. Just but now you know. Don't be like me. My failure of a life can maybe I can save some nerd from. Don't quit your nerd thing. I'll just say that over and over. I'm gonna write this up here. Focus on your strengths. Just the data right there. If you're watching this, if no one's watching this, it doesn't matter. Say if you're a nerd, the data says overwhelmingly focus on your strengths. There's so many fools who try to become an imitation cool guy, and ironically, it makes them even less eligible for the sexy women that they think they're gonna get. If you focus on your strengths, that's your best bet, ironically, at getting a hot chick, because there's like nerds who get good at they can get like a gold digger woman by getting good at their nerd thing, but she's still not gonna like, she's still gonna like be like, ah, you're nerdy. She's probably gonna like fuck the pool guy or something like that. But whether you get the hot chick or whether you're not, best thing is to focus on your strengths. Hard to do, hard to just be yourself. What's his name? In Hamlet, Polonius said like, or was it? I think it was Polonius. He said, "To thine own self be true," which I guess just means like, love what you got, like love your genetics. Just and you can't change your genetics. Anyway, and then what's the point? I'm just gonna say that. But actually, it's again, it doesn't fit into perfect things. So I've asked this over and over. But you say that like growth mindset is kind of good too, and so I've asked this over and over. But doesn't the data basically say mostly focus on your strengths? Like basically like go all in on your career until you get the career. If you're good at something, like secure a career by focusing on your strengths. But then if you can mitigate your weaknesses and you have some off time, it can be good to do that also. Like if you're terrible at public speaking and that's jeopardizing your career, maybe take like a night class to like try to prevent your weakness from totally ruining your life. Basically like that, all things being equal, the best approach is basically like mostly focus on your strengths. If you had to choose between one, do your strength all day versus doing your weakness all day. But it can be good to like mitigate your weaknesses if you have time also, right? That's like the overall best generic strategy based off of data, right? Yeah, so basically like if I say, you can do this kind of binary thing where you say, should I just do my strengths? And it's like, well, no, like, putting a little time into fixing your weaknesses can be good. And then you're like, oh, then I should just do my weaknesses all day. No, like you should mostly do your strength. It's kind of tricky because like the Jocko people, they can say, well, no, like you can get a little better at your weaknesses. Yeah, but not great. Like I did a lot of like focusing on my weaknesses. I'm still fucking weak at my weaknesses, and just don't quit your fucking day job. And my failure of a life can attest for that, but probably no one's watching this except for some troll people, and so it doesn't fucking matter. But I don't know. Anyway, now it doesn't really matter because more and more people are all going to have access to like data, and so increasingly, like probably in like a few years, you'll just have some machine companion that will tell little kids like, hey, like before you get baited into lifting weights all day and taking jiu-jitsu, the machine's going to say, just many fools have like listened to some bully guy who said, you're not going to get any pussy with that chemistry thing. Do you even lift, bro? Do you even low? Oh, I better do the cool thing. The machines are going to say, like don't quit your day job. Just the machine is going to say, the data says focus on your fucking strength. If you want to do a little weightlifting for health, cool, but you're not going to be Arnold Schwarzenegger. Arnold Schwarzenegger, he had those genetics from the get-go. By 25, you should kind of know what you got, and it's best to focus on your fucking strengths. And it's hard not to get baited into becoming an imitation cool guy, and many nerds have fucked up a perfectly good nerd life they could have had to try to have some cool sexy life, and meanwhile they get nothing. You get nothing. And so anyway, so don't be like me.